Morning. It's exciting to be here. I have some good news and bad news. First, the bad news. When Alex Cullen set up the session, he forgot to mention something. There are some surveys, evaluations that we'd like you to fill out for this. Now, the good news is there will be a drawing, and the winner gets this screen. There'll be a second place drawing. You get Alex Cullen. At these sessions, we talk an awful lot about stuff. It's important stuff, stuff I came to hear about. Yesterday, what we hear about? We heard about thinking digitally first and the new normal. Today, 3 great speakers again. And this is stuff that helps us improve our companies and our businesses and our departments. But from time to time, I think it makes sense to talk about us. To talk about us. I'll go first. I'm the father of 2 adult children, happy, successful, employed, which is to say that I used to be the father of 2 much younger children. They too were happy, though unemployed. This is a story about back then, or to be more precise, this is a story about the day I taught my children to swear. Let me explain. We live in Pittsburgh. That's not actually the explanation. In Pittsburgh, it snows. And every year at the beginning, I take the opportunity to practice my treacherous driving skills. This particular year, I was running late. I'd missed a couple of opportunities. And so while en route to some errand with my kids in the back seat, I decided to take a side trip to a parking lot. The excursion began quite well. A frolicking good time was had by all. My children were really excited about the witty banter coming from their dad. Then, I hit some black ice and truly lost control of the vehicle. It's one of those moments where seconds become minutes, minutes feel like hours. At the last moment, hit some pavement, was able to steer out of the slide and avoid tragedy. And I proceeded directly to my original destination, but not before expressing a few instinctive, colorful metaphors. I spent the rest of the day coaching my children into the nuance that when retelling a story to their mother, you can omit certain details, and that's not lying. Well, it turns out what I was doing, the driving part, not the teaching my kids to be product managers. The driving part is known as deliberate practice. Deliberate practice has been written about extensively in books like Outliers and Freakonomics. There's a seminal white paper on it. And if you boil down the whole concept of deliberate practice, it boils down to this. Doing something, even doing it for a very long time, does not necessarily make one better at it. In order to improve a skill, one must practice in a deliberate manner, with a focus on a specific task, in a mentally engaging manner, with the intent to improve. Now you might imagine, because I'm 107 years old. A long time ago, I aspired to be a magician, and I did quite well if you measure anything but income. Magicians will tell you that contrary to popular wisdom, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. In order to improve at a skill, you must practice in a deliberate manner, with a focus on specific tasks, in a mentally engaging manner, with the intent to improve. Take a look at this picture. This is a picture of Santonio Holmes. He was a wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers in Super Bowl 43, or as we like to call it, Super Bowl triple extra large. This is a picture of Santonio catching the winning, come-from-behind touchdown pass with less than 40 seconds to play. Does this not exactly illustrate what we are asked to do every day? Every day, reach for the stars. Reach as high as you can reach. Keep your eye on the ball. Reach as high as you can, keep your eye on the ball, keep your feet on the ground. Stay grounded. While you reach for the stars, keep your eye on the ball, and if you're in a regulated industry, stay in bounds. And it raises two interesting questions. First, how many actual opportunities do you think an NFL wide receiver has to catch the winning touchdown in the biggest game of the season with a few seconds left? Not many. Most will play their entire careers and never see that opportunity. How many times do you think they practice for it? Practice running at a dead sprint to the corner of the end zone, jumping into the air, tapping their toes in, keeping control of the ball. All the time. Just on the chance that the opportunity will present itself. Now, we're not all wide receivers in the NFL, so maybe that's hard to relate to, but here's something. We all drive. How many of us could pass our state's driving test if we were asked to do it again? I'll bet less than 10% of us in the room have successfully parallel parked in the last 5 years. Are you a better driver than you were the day you took your test? Well, GMAC did some studies on this. They did one last year. And they found out that in 1 in 5 drivers, American drivers today, could not pass the basics of their state's driving test. Now, I'm not talking about the esoteric fringe stuff. I'm talking basic things. For instance, 75% could not answer a question like, what's a safe driving distance? 85% couldn't answer things like, if you come to an intersection and the light turns yellow, what is your responsibility? Are you a better driver than you were when you took your test? Well, let's be fair. You probably improved a little with time. Plateaued, and then at some point the decline begins. And folks, the trend line isn't promising. But here's the thing about deliberate practice. It has been shown to be more of an explanation for exceptionalism than is talent, genius, or luck. And it spans all industries and disciplines, whether it's music, or chess, or athletics, or IT. Whether you're Mozart, Bill Joy, chess champion Bobby Fischer, Santonio Holmes. Deliberate practice is a better explanation for superb personal performance than talent, genius, or luck. We need to unshackle ourselves from the notion that superb performance is the result of being lucky at birth. About 20 years ago, I began taking karate lessons with my kids. We study a martial art known as Tung Sudo. Now, I know I don't evoke the visual imagery of Chuck Norris, Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee, more likely to get Newt Gingrich. When I found that the concepts, while the term deliberate practice may be somewhat new, the concepts have been around for a very long time. Tung Sudo is hundreds of years old, and we practice in stances. Stances called Hugel Jase, Kima Jase, Chungal Jase. Stances that have no practical applicability in an actual fight. But by practicing in those stances, we build agility and speed and balance and power and flexibility. Things which are very important in a fight. Now, consider the same thing in our jobs. Do we deliberately practice in our particular jobs? Some people ask if I'm any good after 20 years of practice. I'd like to think I stand out. You know, I've always been clean-shaven. I've always been clean-shaven. But I think we could all agree, if I had a beard, what color it would be. Right? I'm one of my company's graybeards. I'm the guy you would expect to say, it's experience that matters. It's experience that counts. It's the experience that comes with being 107 years old that really matters and drives enterprise architecture talent. Experience does count, to a point. But it must be blended with the personal, superb achievement that is enabled only through deliberate practice. Now there's a challenge for us. Let's say you took a traditional martial art and you went to the karate studio, the dojo, 3 times a week. Over the course of a month, you'd be there 36 hours. In a traditional martial art, you would only spar for about 15 minutes. So you would be practicing deliberately for 35 3/4 hours, and you would actually be doing for 15 minutes. Does this ratio work for anybody in the room? Because I don't know about you, when I'm at work, it's like drinking from a fire hose. I like water, don't get me wrong, but the spigot is on all day long, full blast. I don't know when, you'd have time to practice these things. This is what Stephen Covey refers to as sharpen the saw. It's a reference to an old joke about the lumberjack, that while he was working harder and harder every single day, he was chopping down fewer and fewer trees. Until one day his foreman said to him, "When did you stop to sharpen your axe?" So how do we sharpen our axe? A couple ways. The next time you're reviewing a white paper, a research paper, web article, don't just skim it. Read it. Print it out, underline, circle, dog ear, take it to someone, talk to somebody. Get away from your desk. Get engaged with that material. We don't have the opportunity in our business to study game film of our last meeting to see how did we do. But there is something that we can do. We can go to a Forrester conference. This counts as deliberate practice. You have removed yourself from doing your job, and you're getting engaged in information in new ways. Maybe you're taking notes. Maybe you're talking with your peers. Maybe you're setting up an analysis. But the point is, you've stopped doing the job long enough to improve at the job. This counts. But there's other ways. Let me give you an example in my space. In our company, we use Microsoft Visio for our architectural diagrams. For better or for worse, it's the tool that we use. I have a fellow working for him, one of our architects, Chad. And Chad came to me one day and he says, "Eric, I hate Visio." And I said, "Chad, that really doesn't make you special." Everybody hates Visio. But here's the thing. His diagrams are works of art. There's never any overlapping, crisscrossing lines. The fonts are always readable. The text is always concise and meaningful. And here's why. When it came time, he absorbed himself in the product. He learned, he could have skimmed over it. He could have made it like parallel parking. I'll get just enough by that I can manage it. And I'll avoid it when I can. But no, he absorbed into it. And then he wasn't done there. He then studied diagrams across a wide range of industries. And as a result, today, Chad wins more conversations, wins more decisions, because he's combined the experience of a decade of architecture with a superb capability of articulating it in a way that people can assimilate the knowledge very quickly. So I'm going to pause there, because I think I know what some of you may be thinking. Eric, I left my job. I flew 1,000 miles. I've spent several $1,000s to attend a Forrester conference to learn about thinking digitally first and the new normal and a lot of other things, to improve my business, to improve my department, to improve my functioning. And you're telling me that my path to realization is to read the Visio manual? Perhaps. I can't know your business. I can't know the specifics of every job that you're in, but I know this. Every case of exceptional performance can be traced back across all industries and disciplines to deliberate practice. It doesn't matter if it's athletics or IT, if it's music or art, if it's manufacturing, in every case. And furthermore, the notion that merely doing a job year after year after year makes us better. The data and the research does not support the notion. So it comes down to us. We come to these conferences. I came to this conference because we want to learn about an awful lot of important stuff. And it is important stuff. But we also need to think about us. Me, the father of 2 adult children. I now have 2 grandchildren. We all live in Pittsburgh, where the winters can be brutal. My daughter called this past winter. She said she and her husband were sick. And I said, "Well, tell you what. Let me come to your house. I'll grab the boys, take them back to my house. You get a day to rest and relax." She says, "Dad, that would be great. I just have one question. On your way back to your house, are you going to make any side trips?" I said, "No, dear, I won't be practicing my driving, but I may practice my Forrester speech." And she says, "That's great, Dad. There's no profanity in it, is there, anywhere?" Ladies and gentlemen, you should practice deliberately those skills which are important to your job. Find a coach. They don't have to be better than you. They only have to be honest with you. If you practice deliberately, you'll swear by it. Thank you very much.